I'm Scott Paul, and this is the Manufacturing Report.
When the mill says, hey, we need to bring 500 people back, the town just gets this, jolt of energy and excitement, and we had lost so much. Like I said, outside the fence, the impact is huge, and it takes a long time for that to recover. But boy, you could just really feel the sense of the community coming back again.
Today, we're in Granite City, Illinois. This is a steel town on the banks of the Mississippi River, just across from St. Louis. In December 2015, inundated by a flood of cheap steel imports, U.S. Steel idled its steel mill in Granite City, Illinois. In a town of approximately 26,000 people, 2,000 no longer had jobs. Now, that number alone would be enough to threaten the town's future, but it fails to capture the full scope of loss the community experienced when the mill closed, or the joy when it reopened in March of 2018. On our last episode, we spoke with Granite City's mayor, its economic development director, and with the local United Steelworkers president about the reopening of Granite City's steel mill, thanks to the Section 232 tariff action. Be sure to check that episode out if you haven't already. But today, we're taking a look beyond the mill's fences and chatting with community members in Granite City's local diners, cafes, and businesses. Here's Park Grill owner Michael DeBruce and Cool Beans Cafe owner Victoria Arguelles on what they saw and heard in the days after the mill's idling and the role it plays in their businesses. Next on the Manufacturing Report.
We don't solely rely on them, but we do get 25-30% of our business that comes from there, and then all the people that are affiliated around it. By the time it's done, it's probably 40%. So it definitely was a different time by not having them running, because we were so used to, having everything going. Like down there, we had all our business, things were going strong, but here, for that time frame, it wasn't. So you did have to try to fill that gap, and luckily you had all these loyal customers that come all the time, and that's what just kept us rolling.
The business slowed just a bit, but it was more of a psychological hit, really. A lot of the people that work at the mill do live out of town. So the people that remain in town, it's scary because we've gone through generations of the steel mill closing and opening, and so it's more of a psychological thing. So people really kind of put on the brakes, and they just are real hesitant to spend their money, and some people move, and some people move in, and you just never know what's going to happen, but it definitely halted things for a little while in our community.
Definitely got a lot of guys back that I haven't seen in a while, so it's boosted everybody's morale and put us back where we were before it all went down. People, they come back strong, so everything's been just like full throttle, just like it was, which is good for us.
Now that the mill is humming with activity again, Victoria, Michael, and the rest of Granite City can breathe a sigh of relief, at least for now. We thought we'd also check in with suppliers and other folks around Granite City who are impacted by the steel mill and whether it's seen good times or bad times. And that's led us to Icon Mechanical and to Steve Faust, who is the Director of Business Development. Steve, thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about what Icon's business space is and how you fit into the steel mill in Granite City as well.
Yeah, we're an engineering, fabrication, installation company, so we hire a lot of engineers, designers. We also have fabrication, so we're hiring labor, pipe fitters, sheet metal workers to work directly in our shops to manufacture the parts that we use on our particular projects. So U.S. Steel has been a part of our company since we started here in Granite City in 1995. This was our home. This is where we began, and U.S. Steel has always been a big part of that. So it's something that has always been has been a part of our company.
Yeah. So I imagine in 24 years, you've seen ups and downs with the steel industry because it's obviously very cyclical. It's also impacted by imports to a large degree. Other industries may not be as impacted by imports. So you can obviously tell when times are good and when times are not so good at the plant.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, if we look back, we go back to like 2008 to the to the crash, when the market everything went down. We saw that economically impact the area outside the fence, outside of U.S. Steel, and the mill kind of kept rolling. I mean, it really didn't impact a whole lot of what they were doing inside the plant. It's kind of interesting the way our business market is set up, because we have a commercial market, we have an industrial market, and it seems like when one is rolling, the other one is either stable or falling. So when the commercial market fell off, our industrial market really carried us through those hard times, and U.S. Steel was really a big part of that. So 2008 all the way up to 15, U.S. Steel was really a big part that kind of kept our company going. But then again, it's like we said, everything outside the fence was really suffering. Just economically, it was really hard on the area.
So recently, just a few years ago, you saw the plant basically stop, more or less. What was that like?
Oh my gosh, it was just, like I said, it's just a knife in our heart. We've been in there for so long, working nonstop. And like I said, there was always a glimmer of hope. As long as the furnaces were on, we always kept thinking, it's going to come back, it's coming back, because once they turn the furnaces off, it takes so much to restart them again. But the day they said we're turning the furnaces off, it was terrible. I mean, it was so sad. Luckily for us, 2015 was seeing a recovery on the commercial markets, so we were seeing an uptick on the other side of our company, which really kind of helped us balance out. But we realized then what a big part U.S. Steel was to our entire organization, what it really meant to us overall when it wasn't there, because it's such a huge part. I would guess, like I said, half of our industrial business comes from U.S. Steel.
Yeah, so that's significant. So you may remember the day, I guess, last year when they announced they were restarting operations. Tell me what that was like for you. Yeah.
It was interesting. So even when the plant was shut down, we were doing small projects in there. So we kind of had our finger on the pulse a little bit. So we kind of knew there was rumblings that there was a possibility that it would start, but we'd heard it so many times before that you're just, I just don't know how much we can put into this. And then when word finally does come down that they're going to restart the plant, it's just incredible, because within about 2 weeks we had 160 guys working back in the plant to bring it back online again.
Okay.
I mean, it was almost overnight, and you just can't imagine when the mill says, hey, we need to bring 500 people back. The town just gets this, jolt of energy and excitement, and we had lost so much. Like I said, outside the fence, the impact is huge, and it takes a long time for that to recover. But boy, you could just really feel the sense of the community coming back again.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, because one of the criticisms leveled at the tariffs that were put into place, that as the CEO of U.S. Steel said, this is the reason why we opened the plant back up, is we have a little space to do this now. But one of the criticism of these tariffs is that they're very narrow, and they're only helping steel mills, but everybody else is going to suffer. You're telling me that's not the case.
No, not at all. And we see it everywhere we go. In the past 20 years, the St. Louis region has lost 3 car plants.
Right.
I mean, 3 car plants. We lost 2 Chrysler plants and a Ford plant. And you look at all the jobs outside the fence that are impacted by that. Yeah, of course, you've got your 2,000 jobs or 2,500 jobs in a car plant, but that's 5 times outside that support that organization. It's the restaurants, it's the park grills, here in Granite City that is just that sits there and says, can we keep going? Can we keep going here? You go to Hazelwood, where the Ford plant was, and the community has just lost so much, not just from a tax base, but just a sense of belonging, a sense of community is gone. And you saw that so much here when the mill, like I said, everybody knew the furnaces were on. Everybody had that glimmer of hope as long as those furnaces were on. But man, when they went down, it went down. But when we get word that it's coming back, my gosh, it was just overnight. You saw that just the mental attitude of the town just change.
One of the things that we hear a lot about the steel tariffs is that they're helping some steel mills, but they're really hurting the rest of the economy. Actually, you use steel, you service steel. I mean, how are things going from your perspective? I mean, Granite City, the steel mill wouldn't be up and running were it not for the tariffs, but otherwise things seem pretty okay.
Absolutely. I mean, the economy's rolling. We see it. I mean, we see development going on all the time. We do a lot of higher education, healthcare type projects on our commercial side. Those projects are rolling along. In the last 8 years, we've grown from $12 million company to a $120 million company on opportunities, that we've been able to pursue. A big part of the suppliers that we use, like you said, I mean, we buy a lot of steel pipe. We buy huge coils of rolled steel to make ductwork. Yeah, maybe we've seen some increases in that, but it's nothing that's kept us from being competitive in our markets.
Yeah, it's good to have the customer there who can buy that back from you, I'm guessing.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Steve, one last question for you. Sure. One of the battles that we're fighting in Washington is that there are some politicians that want to get rid of these steel tariffs right now and just say let's forget about it. They're causing too much damage. Yet you have an example here in Granite City of a mill that has seen a new life because of these. What would your message to those politicians be?
I'm a real numbers guy. Yeah. I'm a metrics guy. So I'd really have to see the information. I'd really have to have somebody show me that this is not, we're right across from the Show Me State, right? So it's just like, show me that it's not working. Show me that the impact that we're having is really, truly impacting the rest of the country to a point of pain to where we can't move forward with this, where we can't keep this in where we are right now, because we don't see it, and you're right. We're in the middle of the hot spot, right. So we're all about it. But I would love to see the numbers. I would love to have somebody say, boy, this really is having a detrimental impact on the company. And then maybe it's time then we have a conversation. But in the meantime, they'd have a hard time convincing me of that today.
Yeah. So Steve, best of luck to you and Icon, and thanks for joining us on the Manufacturing Report podcast.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. We appreciate it.
And that will do it for the Manufacturing Report this week. I want to thank the great teams at E18 and AAM for making this episode possible. I want to thank the citizens of Granite City, Illinois for opening their community to us. And most of all, I want to thank you, the listeners, for continuing to give us great story ideas as well as feedback. Keep it coming. Please connect with us on Facebook, tweet us at Keep It Made in USA, and go to our website, AmericanManufacturing.org, where you can find out more information about manufacturing in your community and what steel has meant to cities like Granite City, Illinois. Until next time, I'm Scott Paul, and together we can keep it made in America.